You're in for another great episode of the podcast, but first, do me a favor and click that subscribe button below, and let's dive in. Jeff Guenther, the ever patient with me, Jeff Guenther, the ever flexible with my disorganization. I feel like I've been starting every episode lately apologizing. Is that bad?
I wonder what that says about you. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, well, wasn't there something, maybe it's a thing, like some sort of like trending thing, or maybe it was just like something last month or whatever. But there was kind of like this push for like no more apologies. Like,
Oh, I
try
didn't
to,
catch that.
yeah, you might want
Clearly.
to look into it. Yeah. So it was just sort of like, let's spend the whole week or the whole month or whatever it was with like no apologies. So let's say you like show up late to work or something, or maybe not work, but like, you show up late to like see your friends.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry that I'm late," you instead say, "Hey, thanks for waiting." So you're just sort of
I like
like,
that.
you're changing the energy. You're not putting like the other people in like a weird place where you have to be like, "It's okay, don't worry, it's fine." Because I kind of wanted to react that way, like, sorry, you're starting this podcast with "I'm sorry." I felt inclined to be like, "It's all right, man, don't worry about it." But I guess if you would have flipped it, it would have been like, what? Well, I don't know.
Well,
It
we
would have
should try
been
it again. All right, ready?
okay.
And,
Let's
and
start
we're
over.
live. Sup, Jeff?
Hello.
Sup, Jeff?
How's it going? How you doing?
Not bad.
Good, good. Well, no, but now you gotta like
I'm
take the
here.
thing. Like, this is just
I'm
awkward
here, aren't
now.
I? No, this is
Yeah,
great. This
okay.
is
So,
Well, it's kind of like exaggerating the symptom, as they call it, right? So, like, if these couples are fighting, you send them home, and you are prescribing the symptom. So you send them home, and you say, "Okay, I want you to fight twice as much as you usually do," and then they come back and they
mm,
fought less.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it is kind of like that. Or even just sort of like making them aware of the thing that keeps on coming up. It's a great like therapist cliche line of, like, so, I've really noticed lately, yada, yada, yada. Or I'm wondering, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're sort of like doing it to yourself at the start of the podcast. You're noticing that you're apologizing a lot. So yeah, I don't know what that means for you, or if you need
Well,
to take a look at it.
yeah, you know, I was talking to a therapist earlier today, and my like plea to her, I was like, there's the therapist part of you that's so nice and so sweet and so kind and so accommodating, and that works so well for you and your clients. But as a group practice owner, it's working miserably, and people are
Mm,
walking all over you. And the example was, and if you're listening, I love you. You just have to stiffen up a bit. Was like, she's got all these offices that she is, can be subleasing out. And
hmm
it's this, one therapist going, "Well, I just need 1 hour on Fridays. And, I know can you just squeeze it in for me to just maybe rent this 1 hour, and you can just charge me by the hour?" And,
hmm
and the therapist goes, "Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, it's fine. I can make it work." And I'm going,
Yeah,
no.
no.
When you have 6 offices and you're subleasing all these, it would just be a nightmare. It is a nightmare for her. And I said, you've got to be kind of ruthless. So you don't have to be mean about it, but you need to get better at saying, I only rent the offices by the day. Here's what a day costs.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely. And I rent offices. I know how that goes. You can like slip into therapists being like, "Oh God, give me an emergency session," or just like this one time, or it'll never happen again, or yada
Yeah.
yada. So as a therapist running a business, are you going to be compassionate to
Yeah.
that? Be like, "Okay, it's totally fine," or are you going to like
Right.
kind of step into your like business person kind of mode and be like, "Well, this is what the lease says, and this is what we agreed on, and you know what the rules are." My mom actually visited me from LA. My mom rents part-time therapy space to therapists, as do I.
I
So
knew
I kind of,
that's where you got it.
yeah,
Look at
runs in the
that.
family.
It's a weird thing to be
But
passed down.
it is, it is. But the way that we run the office spaces are really different. Where she runs it, like your example, she runs it so that people can rent hourly. And so if they need an hour here or there or a half a day or whatever it is, they have to text her. They say, "Hey, do you
Oh,
have
this is
space
giving
for
me so
this?"
much anxiety.
I know, right? And for me, it's like it's all set up online. You can just go on the calendar and reserve something. If you need to move up your hours and you have to move it up in 5 hour chunks, your monthly rent goes up. It's all very organized and rules. But my mom is just sort of crazy, going all over the place. And it made me feel really anxious because she gets, I don't know, between like 50 and 75 texts a day because she has like
Incredible.
30 different offices and it's just like crazy. And I was like, why, why is this okay? Why are you allowing
And what does she
therapists
say?
to, well, I need to mention that she's great. I love my mom. She's
Yeah, you
fantastic.
should have mentioned that at the beginning. Now you're already in a hole.
I
And
know.
I'm sure
Sorry,
your
Mom.
mom's listening right
Of
now.
course, biggest fan. And she's also Jewish, and so are raised in like a Jewish family.
Yeah,
So she's got some Jewish guilt stuff
yeah.
going on. And so, in so many words, she was like, you know what? I like when all these therapists are
I
contacting
like when they
me
reach out.
and we're reaching out and
Huh.
I'm establishing relationships. And maybe I wouldn't do it as much if you called a little bit more. So she's sort of like slipping that in. Like it's my fault the way that
Hmm.
she's like set up her business. She needs to get so much attention from these therapists because she's getting nothing from her son that lives 1,000 miles away. So I don't know. Maybe that's the reason.
I like to be
Maybe
needed.
yeah, I think it does come down to like liking to be needed. And
Yeah.
also, she said while I was bugging her about it another time, she was like, you know what? Every time I get a text from a therapist saying, "Hey, can I get this office
An angel
space?"
gets its wings.
She hears the sound of like a cash register. Like she
Oh,
she hears
yeah,
a sound
baby.
of money. She's like, "Up, here's more money. Here's more money. Here's more money." So that's kind of like a nice feeling for her,
Okay, and that's a whole nother level. Now it's
right?
like thinking like a behaviorist, right? It's like someone ringing
Exactly.
that bell and as you are
Yep.
salivating.
Yeah. So, to each their own. I don't know how she does it, but it works for her, and all of her therapists that rent from her, I think, are pretty happy about it.
Well, yeah, they get what they want whenever they need it, and she's a text away. It's
Yeah.
great. Well, maybe you can help her slowly merge her cell phone number into a bot. So these wonderful therapists can keep texting her and they'll be like, "Hey, I wonder if the office is open, on Friday at 2." And the bot will go, "Hello, my name is Spot." And they'll go, "Wait, I thought this was so and so. I thought this was
Right.
Jeff's mom."
Yeah.
It
No, that's
is.
pretty amazing.
It is Jeff's
Do you,
mom.
they're trying, have you like looked into the studies or like the research or, where they're like trying to make bots into therapists?
Oh, they've been
Have
doing
you
that for a
seen this?
long time. Yeah.
Right.
They
Yeah.
started
Doesn't
doing
seem
that 20 years
successful.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I hope it happens.
Oh, you do?
Not because like I think it would be
Because you
like
think we need to be
successful.
replaced?
Not because I don't think, I just want to see it. I want to see it get closer and closer to it actually like manifesting into something because I want to experience it.
I see.
Um, yeah, I still think that like probably seeing an actual person in person would be a better experience. But I love seeing technology like move forward, even if it's just kind of crazy.
Every listener is wincing right now and like Googling like AI therapist, am I going to lose my job?
Well, you know what? I'm like a therapist that feels confident that I can go like head to head with
With the
a
bot.
bot therapist, and
That'd be a good game show. Like who
it
could
would be.
therapize harder?
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
they've done. It's basically a decision tree. It's a series of decision trees. So they've programmed these bots based on what a therapist would do. So client comes in and starts crying,
Hmm.
and then they see what a therapist would say next. Or even in a chat, you have therapists doing chat therapy, and then you have
Right.
the bot basically studying what the therapist does. And there's a high likelihood that the therapist is going to do roughly something
Hmm.
similar, right? Or the
Hmm.
client goes, "I had a really rough day," and the therapist goes, "Tell me about it.
Right.
What was rough about it? What was the roughest part?" And the bot
Mm-hmm.
goes, "What was the roughest part? What was the roughest part?"
I just want, you know how like, I don't know if you do this in your therapy, but like you're working with a client and maybe they're sort of like, it's hard for them to express emotions or contact their emotions, whatever, whatever.
Sure.
And you talk to them for a long time. And after a while, maybe 20, 30 sessions or something, there's some sort of like emotional breakthrough
Sure, sure.
and they're being vulnerable. Maybe they're a little teary. It feels like really poignant in the session. And as a therapist, maybe you just sort of like lean in a little bit, like you're getting closer to them, and you say something like to encourage their vulnerability. So something like, "I feel really connected to you right now." Something to just sort of like
Yep,
so they can
love that.
continue to act authentic. Yeah, sure, exactly. That's like perfect. But I want a bot to say that to me. I want like a robot to be like, "I feel really connected to you right now." Like I want to know
Are
that
you
that
sure you want me
carries
to
the
publish this
same.
episode? We can cut this part out. I was just
Uh,
saying to another guest, we have never edited the podcast before, but we could start with this episode.
you know what? It's your call. I'm
Does your
not.
wife
I
know that you want to have this
she
intimate experience with the bot? No, just kidding.
she doesn't know. She's not going to listen to the podcast. She's going to have no idea. This
She
is a
and your
secret
mom are
life.
off doing they're
No,
off doing more
I'm
important things.
I'm not saying I want to replace my wife.
Yeah,
Just to be clear, or
yeah.
a
Or
therapist,
your therapist. Yeah.
or my therapist. But I want to see what that would look like if it
I'm
got
with
close
you.
to it. Okay, good.
It'd be wild. I mean, it's um I did AI. I didn't do AI. That's not a thing. I did VR
Okay,
for the
that's a
first
thing.
time last week. Last
Oh
week.
yeah, how was that?
Have you ever done it like Oculus Rift or something?
No,
What?
haven't. No.
Okay. So I have to talk about this. I've been dying to talk about it. It's actually why I had you on the show today. So
So you could talk
I
about
just
VR. I'm
wanted someone
glad
to
I
listen.
care. Tell me about it.
Wanted you to be a bot today. I was hanging out with some friends, and this friend works in like AI. Like he's a computer engineer, software engineer. He works in this industry. He's created a startup based on advancing VR and some really interesting technology behind it. And we're just sitting there at the dinner table. We're drinking some beer, having a good time, and he just brings it up. Almost like offering a drug. You're just kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah, I heard about this VR thing on the streets," and he's like, "You want some VR, bro?" And I'm like, "What? Like, you have some here?" He's like, "I have it here," and he goes, he goes to the other room and brings out a duffel bag, like the
Wow.
size, like too big to be a carry-on, and I'm like, this is truly either your drug bag or your VR bag. It's like, it's like a bag that he got from like a giveaway, and it says like
Uh-huh.
Chevrolet on it or something.
Very sketchy.
Very sketchy looking bag, like very lumpy and looks very heavy. And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
either drugs or weapons or an Oculus Rift. And it was an Oculus Rift.
Okay, thank God.
So he gets it out, and you have to have a special computer for it. So you
Oh
have to
yeah,
get
yeah.
like basically a gaming laptop, and then you
Right.
pull it out, and you have sensors, like you have the 4 sensors that you have to put all over the room. It took probably
Mm-hmm.
half an hour to set it up, and at that point I wasn't
Wow.
interested. No, just kidding. No, I was waiting patiently, and I was like, this is so complex already. And as I was getting ready to do it, so he got it all set up, he's like calibrating it, and you put the thing on, and I'm looking at him being like, you look ridiculous. You look like
Mm-hmm.
a partial robot, but you're just normal. And so he gets it set up, it's ready to go, and he looks at me and he's like, "What kind of experience would you like?"
That's so creepy.
And I'm like, "What are my options?" He's like, "We can put you on a pirate ship. We can
Oh.
put you in a 3-dimensional blank canvas where you can just draw." He's like, "You can shoot a bow and arrow at zombies, or you can just do Google Earth."
Wow. I hope that you chose being a pirate.
So I did.
Okay, good.
I started there, and then I shot arrows at zombies. When I put this thing on, and it, like 20 years from now, someone will find this and listen and just laugh because VR
Right.
is reality at that point, and they'll be like, these
Exactly.
these old guys, like they
And I'm
didn't know
sure
what was
that your
coming.
podcast episodes will be relevant
In
20
20
years
years,
from
oh, I
now.
think for sure more
Definitely.
relevant than ever. I don't think SEO is going to be a thing. I think Google is going to be implanted in our brains at that point. But
Exactly.
we put the thing on, and I'm immediately in a different reality. Truly, I did not know how powerful it was going to be. And you
Hmm.
have the hand things, and the hand things,
Mhm.
you move any finger like this, and in the VR, they're moving like this.
Oh, wow.
So you're immediately starting to interact with the world. So you're moving your fingers, and you're looking at your hand, and your hand, the motions you're making with your fingers in front of your face is happening in VR.
Did
And
you feel like off balance or
yes, I thought I was going to
nauseous? You
fall
did.
for sure. So I drank another beer. And
Yeah.
I looked down at my feet, and this is one of the trippiest parts. I looked down at my feet, and I was on the edge of the dock, and I thought for sure I was going to fall off.
Wow.
And I look
Wow.
over the edge like this, and it has true depth to it because it's so
Mm,
three-dimensional, and because like you have depth perception in VR because the lenses are so close to your eyes
right.
that it kind of fools your eyes into like this is reality, like what I'm seeing through my glasses, like it becomes VR, and so it's right up on your
Hmm.
eyeballs. So there's no separation. You're not looking at a screen, like your eyes just become
Right.
part of this new world. And I look down, and I'm like, holy hell, I'm gonna fall off this dock and get eaten by something. And um, and then you just start exploring the environment. You start moving around, and you forget very quickly you're in someone's living room.
Hmm.
Until you
Wow.
step on like their cat, and then you're like, "Oh, that is definitely real." Or your friend starts messing with you and like poking you in the side while you're shooting zombies.
Nice. That is so trippy.
It's you have to experience it, dude. I didn't know that it would be this profound, and when I took
Yeah.
it off, it was just as disorienting. When I took it off, I honestly felt sad.
Really?
I
Interesting.
felt disappointed to come back to reality.
Huh.
Only because things were not as fun and vivid, and I couldn't shoot arrows at my friends. Well, I could, but in that
I mean,
moment,
there'd be consequences,
there'd
I
be
guess, if you
yeah, there'd be
did. Yeah.
consequences.
It sounds like a really powerful
It
experience,
is.
which sounds like amazing, but is also kind of scary that
It is
like
really scary. It's
it can be
scary that
that
I liked
profound.
it so much. It's scary that I liked it more than when I took it off, and everything looked really flat and kind of just
Mm.
plain to me. And my friends are literally just standing there like on their phones, like, sup. And I'm like, "Do you guys know
Yeah.
what I just did?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do this like every Thursday."
Wow, that's really crazy. Well, I wonder if they like, I imagine that like eventually if like VR continues to take off, it can turn into something that can be therapeutic
That's
where you
that's
can,
why I brought this up.
right? Yeah, we're always tying it back. Exactly.
People are already doing medicine through VR, and people are starting to do virtual like MRIs or like remote scans with machines where there's like
Right.
no technician, but that you can
Hmm.
like see a doctor through that. I do think we're a lot closer than we realize to you doing VR with a client and it
Hmm.
being so close to you being in the room where you can basically interact, or you could high five your client with your virtual hand.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about. And it also just makes you think about like, because right now the closest thing we have to that maybe is just sort of like video chat online therapy.
Right.
And I think, and we talked about this when we met in person, I think, of just like
Yeah.
what is, or maybe I don't know exactly what road we went down here, but like what is like how much of an impact is that going to have? Is like the in-person therapy, is it always going to be the dominant type of getting like counseling, or is like online therapy or online chatting or whatever it is, VR therapy, is that going to be something that takes over? And it's hard to think about. I don't know if it's because like I'm a therapist and I'm just like, no, I know this works and there's like a real strong, important emotional connection and there's so many things that are happening in the room, in the office, that I have to be able to see it and experience it and point it out and yada yada. But maybe I'm just sort of like incredibly biased. Maybe I'm kind of old. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm only like 37, but still, like, I'm not as young as like, Generation Z coming up and maybe preferring something that's more like online or virtual. So I kind of hope that online virtual stuff doesn't really take over, but I could also like already be sort of like dating myself or something.
I think we're already there, dude.
We're there. Oh God.
And I was just saying to someone the other day, um, I am seeing more and more therapists every single week going, I want to build an online practice. I want to be completely remote.
Right.
I want to do all virtual. How do I do
Mm-hmm.
it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're there. And I think, I also talked to a therapist who, I just flashed my little Siberian cat for those of you who are not watching YouTube. I
The
wonder what
cat
that pause
was
was about.
very adorable.
They're like, did someone just choke? Who was saying people keep calling me, like my brick and mortar practice, and asking, can we just meet online?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's happening. And it's funny because like so with Therapyden, fantastic new national therapist directory that's
That's
just
right.
been launched. The Therapyden profiles that I'm like requesting therapists to create, I'm asking them to like be more authentic and talk about like if they feel comfortable, talk about like their values and their beliefs because there's also this like value match that a lot of like younger clients are looking for. They want to know that their values match the therapist's values. We know as therapists that that's not you can still be a fantastic therapist and a good match for a client, even if the
Hmm.
values don't match. But it's becoming like really important for clients when they're looking for a therapist. Who did you vote for? Have you gone to this march? What's your political? Where do you stand politically? Yada yada. So that's also something that I think is like making therapists feel a bit uncomfortable,
Hmm.
being like, oh, do I have to like be comfortable in this online space and arena? Do I have to be comfortable with like having more self-disclosure? These aren't things that we're like learning or that we learned in grad school. Maybe they're talking about it now in grad school. I don't know. But I know that even with like Therapyden, I'm trying to like push the mental health like practitioners forward, and these are all things that are happening. But I was talking to earlier today a dentist, like an entrepreneur dentist, and the dentist was telling me that there's like this really interesting like site. Oh, God, I'll try to remember the name of the website. But you can go on this website, answer like some personal questions to figure out like if the dentist is a really good match for you. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and there's other ones for like doctors too, but not so much for like mental health. So there's like some technology is moving healthcare forward, dentistry, doctors in some cases, but mental health is either like getting left behind or us therapists are a little more resistant to it, or people just don't know how to
Yeah.
like. This is like such a specialized field, you know?
Well, you and I talked about this in person when we hung out, and I verified that you do have legs and arms,
I do.
and that um, I worked really briefly with the San Francisco startup that was effectively trying to create like a dating
Right.
algorithm for therapists and client, and trying to capture and essentially quantify what is that kind of spark, or what is real connection look like when you sit
Hmm.
down with a therapist, and regardless of their background or degrees or what they put on their profile, or if they say CBT or not CBT, you sit down and you go, oh, this is great. So,
Hmm.
I like, this is it, or this is
Hmm.
the third therapist I've tried, and this is just the one. Jeff's the one.
Right.
What is that, and how do we make that happen more often for both therapists and clients?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people in like the technology field, entrepreneurs, startups, they're trying to like figure that out, how
Yeah,
to make that match online or before you actually sit in the office. And I want to like be part of that discussion and try to figure it out. But I'm also like, I just don't know. I don't know if that's like a possibility. You really have to like feel the energy sitting in a room with somebody and talk to them over like at least a handful of sessions. So
I
we'll see.
think therapists tend to overthink their marketing and their profiles, or and the directories being one of them, as if it's just really a tool to get someone on the phone, then
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty simple. Because for a lot of therapists, once they get the client on the phone, they know what to do.
Right,
Right? They're
exactly.
they're they're more than prepared um, to to help the client figure out, is this a connection? Am I the right person? What's this worth to you? When I
Hmm.
state my fees, is this worth that much to you? So I feel like you know, and again, I think that's what dating apps are essentially do as well, is they try to reduce a certain number of variables to go, I think Jeff and so would get along pretty well based on
Hmm.
these criteria, based on they have similar beliefs or believe similar things about the world. I think you guys should at least talk and have a sales call, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that it's a good sort of like mind shift to look at your at least therapist profile or other marketing of like, how do I get on the phone with this person, or how can they come in for like a little consultation or whatever it is.
But a lot of
Um,
clients don't necessarily want that phone call, though, even nowadays. I noticed that trend as well, is more and more they either just want to email with you or message with you or just book the appointment in some,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
So
It's
sometimes we
crazy.
don't even get that information until they're sitting in front of us. I do
Right.
think two things. I think online therapy is coming fast. I think it's already here in a big way, and it's going
Hmm.
to be more of the norm. And I do think we lose a feature, a dimension, I should say. Obviously,
Hmm.
we lose a dimension that is important to us as therapists, in how we
Right.
connect in the room, how you lean forward and the client can feel that and see that. It's a little harder if I lean forward into my webcam and hit my forehead and then my cat scrambles across my keyboard. It's just different. And I
Exactly.
was at a similar place of like kind of resisting it for a while. And um and you know, I don't know. I think it's happening, and I don't know how we're going to make up for that dimension. Maybe VR is the way that eventually it'll be so similar to sitting in a room with you. But for now, I just know that more and more therapists and more consumers are digging it.
Yeah, no, it does seem like it's definitely trending that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we're also wearing the same exact shirt.
I keep noticing that.
I keep noticing it
Uh,
too.
but maybe it's not the same exact shirt. Did you get yours from American Apparel?
No, because that doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't,
But they
but
made
when it
great
did,
shirts.
well, actually, American Apparel went bankrupt, and then a Canadian company bought American Apparel, and now they're relaunching American Apparel, but all of the apparel is not made in America anymore. So, but they
There you
do
have it,
still have their
folks.
basics.
If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were if you had a burning curiosity before this episode, now it's been quenched. Jeff Guenther for you.
Well, no, it's interesting actually. So they are still making some shirts. Trust me, this is interesting
Yeah.
to your listeners, even if it's not interesting to you. I feel like you're giving me the space. Like, let's go ahead and no, stay tuned. Interesting fact. American Apparel, they make some of their clothing in America, but most of it overseas. And so you, as the consumer, you have a choice. Do you want to spend $22 on a t-shirt made from America, or do you want that same t-shirt for $18 made overseas? And so now they're going to like see what people prefer. And then already they have results. The results are in. Do you want to know what the results are?
Obviously, no. We're gonna do a second part to this series,
Tune in
and
next
you have to
week.
tune in and pay $5 to hear the results. I'm
Uh,
interested, and obviously I'm selfish, so I'm thinking about what I would do, and
what would you do?
I'd have to buy I'd have to get the American made one.
Would you?
I
Because out
think.
of a feeling of like what, guilt or obligate or supporting America or I don't
It's
know.
not really supporting America as much as not supporting potentially a harmful industry.
Sure.
Um, but I don't know. I mean, it creates a dilemma and a decision. I like that it offers that decision, I guess, but
Right? Yeah.
my guess is going to be that most people pay the extra $4.
You'd be wrong. It's
Damn
like
it.
90% of people are paying for the cheaper shirt. So
Oh, this is devastating.
I
You're
know.
supposed to
Yeah.
tell me something good today. Something good about the world.
Well, I will add this that they, for what it's worth, American Apparel sort of like guarantees that these are not sweatshops
Okay.
that are making these shirts. And it's not just like one random place like in China or something. There's like six different. So it's like one in France, one in Venezuela. I don't know. There's like six different
Hmm.
sorts of locations, so it feels a little more like you know it's not sweatshoppy.
So what would you do?
Uh, well, I have lots of American Apparel. Like half my wardrobe is
Nice.
American Apparel. I like how plain and basic it
Me
is,
too.
because then I get to be like the star, while my like clothes fade into the background. Um, but I don't like how it's made. Like my American Apparel stuff falls apart all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So I get the feeling that even though
It's like
like
single-use clothing. It's
it
like a
is,
shirt a day.
right? So I would probably buy overseas clothing just to see if the quality is better.
Why would it be better overseas?
Because the American quality stuff that I have keeps falling apart. So maybe
Okay.
they know what they're doing over there.
So for you, it's more about quality and less about the ethics of the decision.
My life is never about ethics. It's always about the quality
It's
of the
all about
fabric.
quality. This is
That's a
really
joke. I
fascinating.
do
I
care
know.
about ethics.
I know it's
Okay.
a joke. I
Just
don't
wanted
think
to-
people know. I'm like, you're also the guy who built an entire directory with a socially driven principle.
Exactly.
Uh,
And I do really, that is, those are my values.
yeah,
Yes. What were we talking about?
no idea.
No
Online
idea.
therapy.
Online therapy. No, but I think you transitioned into something before I got into American Apparel. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
You and I are merging into the same person with our same
Oh,
shirts on.
right, 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 right. Exactly. That's what we're talking about.
Um, yeah, I do though, and I think I've said this before, and I'm less embarrassed now to say it. I wear pretty much the same shirt every day, and often the same jeans every day. And
Hmm.
people will think I'm a crazy person, and that's fine. It's not the same shirt; it's the same style of shirt of which I
Okay.
own 8 to 10 of this gray
Okay.
shirt.
So it's not like a stinky shirt
No,
that's getting stinkier over the
well,
week. Okay. I mean,
ask my wife, but
yeah.
sometimes I get them confused. Obviously, I don't have them labeled like shirt one, shirt two, shirt three, but that's not a bad
Right.
idea. Um, but I started doing this because this idea of decision fatigue and the amount of menial decisions we make in the course of a day. You wake up, what are you going to eat? What are you going to drink? What kind of coffee are you going to have?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to wear standing there at your closet? So
Mm-hmm.
basically, rather than wasting precious brain power on all that stuff, I pretty much don't think about it. I pretty much wake up and wear one of these gray shirts and the same pants if it's cold out, or the same shorts basically if it's warm out. So it works
Yeah.
for me. I also tend to eat the same thing a lot. Like I have the same breakfast every single morning. A lot of times I have the same lunch.
Yeah.
If I wasn't married, I'd probably have the same dinner, but my
Mhm.
wife would lose her mind.
I have the same breakfast and the same lunch almost every single day as well. There's something about that
Kindred
routine and
spirits. Yeah.
comfort but I'm also not like a foodie. I'm not
Yeah, I
just
wouldn't
like
say I
a,
am either.
that's not like the most interesting thing to me. So it's okay if I eat like the same yogurt and berries every morning,
That's great.
which I do.
Yep.
Yep.
And then your mind can think about more important stuff.
Oh yeah. Tons of important stuff. I'm always thinking about important stuff. Oh, sorry.
Well,
I just banged my glass.
that's okay. We'll just edit that out. Let's just get right on that. So last time we talked a lot about Therapyden. How's Therapyden going?
Therapyden is good. I'm actually
This will be you talking from the future, by the way. So this is you after the next episode that we recorded in the past, speaking in the future after that episode has come out. So
okay. Okay. I need to like get my
this
bearings.
is how is it
Uh,
going in mid-October?
in mid-October, it's going really well. I just launched a new marketing campaign, and I've targeted 10 different cities across the country. I don't know if we talked about this before, but so this marketing campaign is primarily a direct mail marketing campaign where I'm like sending postcards
Hmm.
to therapists to educate them about Therapyden. New national directory, social justice, mission to there's a mandate to fight against racism and discrimination, and so I'm just trying to kind of like educate therapists, get them to sign up. But I hate getting postcards in the mail.
Well, that's ironic.
I know, right? And it feels like it's so not tech savvy.
It's not.
It's not. So I'm right. It feels that way and it is that way. Uh, so there was like I was like conflicted sending this to like 10 different cities across the country, like being my first sort of like, point, their first way that they're like learning about me is through direct mail. But therapists get a ton of direct mail and we respond to it, and it works to a certain degree. So it's just my first point of contact with them. There will be more. But that launched in October, and I'm really excited to see the results.
Awesome. Well, I think, as things become more digital, there's some people that still crave something either in person or physical that they can hold in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, exactly. And it's actually like a really sort of intimate thing to like send somebody, they're holding it in their hand, they're reading it. Like that doesn't happen very much anymore. So if you can get them to pick something up and read it and feel it and look at the design and how everything was crafted,
totally.
then it can really resonate. So,
And you're careful with that stuff. This is one of 100 things that I like about you. Just saying. You care about good design.
I do. I do care about it.
It's a fun website to hang out on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Yeah,
God.
and thank God. And one of the things that I'm like really proud of that's actually in like on the front of the postcards is if you go to therapyden.com, scroll down a little bit, you'll see that you can like choose like individual relationship therapy, family therapy, group, yada yada. And those icons are gender neutral icons, right? Yeah, they're just like they're
I didn't notice
lamps
that.
and yeah, lamps and light bulbs, like one lamp for individual therapy, a night light for child therapy. Those are the icons. So it feels like, okay, this is great. This is, resonates, matches our belief and our mission, and it's all very gender neutral. However, I gave that design to like the printer that sent out the postcards, and they messed up the colors.
They added gender to all of it.
Yeah, all the lamps are gendered. I don't even want to tell you like what that looks like.
Right.
It's horrifying. So I had to like, and they had already sent them out too.
Yeah.
They sent me like a proof where the lamps were not gendered; they were gender neutral. When they sent them out, all of a sudden they're genderized.
It's like, here's a proof. We're sending out whatever we want.
Exactly. And so I was like, what are you doing? And luckily I sent one to me, to my office, so that I like
Smart.
saw it. But by then it was too late. So I got them to give me all my money back.
Look at that. Bringing it
Yeah.
home to how we started today, talking about assertiveness.
Exactly. Yeah. And I felt really good about that. And they apologized and they felt good knowing that they can like make this up to me.
Right.
They really, I mean, I didn't like get my money back. They're just like, you can spend this money, all this money, we'll credit you
Yeah.
for anything else that we'll do. And I was like, okay, that's fair.
It's a great way if you're on a shoestring budget is, do some marketing, make sure they mess it up, and then demand your money back. You're like, I was never going to pay you guys anyway, but thanks.
Yeah, it's tricky to pull off, but if you can pull it off, it's totally worth it.
Man, that's impressive. And going back to online therapy, I can't remember if we talked about this in person briefly, but will there be like, and you don't have to answer this if there's plans in the works, but like, will there
Sure.
be a checkbox or something for online therapists on Therapyden?
Yes, good question. So right now there is a checkbox. However, it's not like the most useful checkbox because, I mean, you should check it if you're providing it. But the thing is, like, we're going to update the website so that if you're a therapist in California and you're offering online therapy, right now, if somebody does a search for you, it still matters where your zip code is, but that shouldn't matter if you're an online therapist, right? So we're going to be updating the site probably pretty soon hopefully by like around the new year, so that when you do check that box, you'll come up in searches. But it's still like a funky thing that I really need to think about and figure out because do all those online therapists show up for every zip code for every
Right.
search and
That's a
yada
good
yada yada.
question.
I haven't figured that out quite yet, but they need to be integrated in a way so that they're not just only attached to that zip code.
Man, that sounds like a head scratcher
It is a head
in a
scratcher. Right now, you
sense.
can like choose two zip codes because you can have like a secondary location. But yeah, if you have any ideas
I
or any
do.
of your listeners, I'm totally open to it.
Well, let me ask you this because this question has been posed a lot, and then we'll start getting ready to wrap up here. Um, if you were to, in an alternate personality that likes online therapy, the Jeff Guenther that all of a sudden decides to launch an online therapy practice, knowing what you know and knowing that you're also an SEO dude, um, let's say you wanted to launch an online therapy practice and you're licensed in Oregon and also in Florida.
hmm
What do you do?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. Um, a lot of times that question comes with, should I have a separate website
Yeah, yeah.
for my Oregon practice and my Florida practice? Uh, and I was born in Florida,
Really?
FYI.
See how I
Yeah,
just chose that?
you're so intuitive.
It just came to me.
Yeah. Um, I when it comes to this, where you're like trying to appeal to a market that's outside of one city or outside your local city, I usually go to like, well, let's do all the like the basic SEO stuff, including all the important keywords, yada yada yada. Have like some pages that are devoted to Oregon, like, oh, so sad, it rains, and the clouds, they're really difficult, and but in a genuine way, because that's a real thing. And then Florida. Florida has a lot of things that they're dealing with. So like creating like local content about Florida and all the stuff that's going on there. So like giving it local flavor for both Oregon and Florida. But I would probably like lean really heavily into what the specialization or what their niche is and create like a lot of content around that. So if your niche is eating disorders, then you're going to have a blog that's going to have a ton of content about eating disorders.
And would
How,
you gear that toward and try to rank locally for different cities within the state for that?
yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of work is
It
the
is a lot of
problem,
work, and this is why I think it's a
right?
conundrum for a lot of therapists trying to build their online practice.
I mean, if I was building an online practice and I didn't have any clients yet, then I guess I'd have a lot of time during the week. And so I would like try to pump out as much content as I possibly could that, was naming all of like the local things in Oregon and Florida. Um, but eventually I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to continue that rate of pumping
Mhm.
out that amount of content. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I would still try to do my best though, like creating more content and trying to make it localized. I don't know. How do you answer that question?
In a similar way, I mean, I like.
I mean, there's Google AdWords, of course.
Thank you for lofting me that one. Um,
Take it away.
paid advertising can get you there if
Right.
you have a budget to do it with.
hmm
We have seen a lot of success with my team running ads for people in these situations across different cities within the state. Florida being a really common one. Everyone's like
Mm,
licensed in Florida, even though they don't live there. Are you licensed there?
really? I'm not licensed in Florida. I lived there for 3 years in Miami. I
Okay.
can't remember
Okay.
what it was like.
For some reason, I feel like everyone's like, I'm licensed in Idaho and Florida. Like, what? Like, have you ever even been there? Nope. But I'm licensed there.
They're just handing out
Call now.
licenses. It's pretty great.
Um, I think the biggest head scratcher is for a lot of therapists, it's hard enough to just rank for their local
Right.
practice site in Miami.
Right.
But then those same therapists are going, well, I want to build an online practice across Florida and also have a practice in Ohio. So what do I
hmm
do?
hmm
Um, my answer, yeah, is generally focus on some of those locales. See if you can get yourself ranking for some of those locales
hmm
with both good keyword placement, some paid advertising, and for the love of God, great content, a good content strategy
Right.
being the engine of this whole thing. The
Hmm.
other trend that I see, I think Facebook ads can be effective if done well. If you have a good landing page, a good funnel
Sure.
set up, if you've got good targeting, etc. I generally, especially in the show, I don't outright say like, everyone get ready and start your own Facebook ads and just get into it now, because for a lot of therapists it's completely overwhelming.
Right.
But anyway, it's a form of paid advertising that can work or can generate some leads or just email captures for you.
Hmm.
Um, I personally, I think it's a long game, and I think content marketing and email marketing are huge. So having great
Right.
content that feeds into your email list is huge, and over time building that email list so that you can engage them and not go back to the well every time you want a new online therapy client. The other
Hmm.
challenge that we see with AdWords is some of these companies like BetterHelp and Talkspace, who are VC funded,
Hmm.
who have crazy ad spends that
Right.
we'll never be able to match. And so when you do run ads for certain areas for online therapy, guess what? You're running them up against companies like that. So, but again, I really think content is the way. I think some online therapists are developing great YouTube channels for themselves and reaching a lot of different kinds of people. Hopefully, if you are doing that kind of content somewhere else, you are sending people either back to your website or back to your email list or
Hmm.
to some sort of lead magnet. I think that's another thing that a lot of therapists don't do, is they do a lot of things well. They make a great post or a great article or whatever, and then the client reads it and goes, cool, and they X out.
Hmm. Right.
You
Exactly.
have to tell people what to do next. But I think for therapists to think about playing the long game and really getting clear on why they're creating content in the first place and doing content
Hmm.
marketing it will go a long way. I don't think it's going to happen overnight unless you've got a good amount of money to put into paid advertising.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're going to be an online therapist, you have to sort of like buy into all of the online stuff,
Totally.
which comes with like content marketing and creation. And I might also add that, like, if I'm focusing on Oregon, um, or any state really, I'm gonna go for like the smaller to mid-sized cities possibly first. So I might focus on like Eugene, Oregon, instead of Portland, Oregon, because there's not as many like therapists ranking there. There's not as much competition,
Smart.
um, and also maybe the random smaller to mid-sized towns in Florida or whatever. So if I can get like a little bit of traction there, then I can eventually start ranking in Portland as well.
I bet everyone listening right now is wishing that you would be their consultant. They're like,
I
Jeff, just do it for me.
I wish I could be.
I
I don't have the time,
know. This is
unfortunately.
why you're great. Well, I think the next thing you need to do is build your mother a system for managing her.
Ugh, I've tried.
Yeah, I'm
She
sure you
won't let
have.
me.
You,
Ugh, it's
you're
so
literally like the
frustrating.
guy to do it, and
I
she is
know.
literally doing it the exact opposite way. It's kind of harmonious in a way. It's kind of yin and
A
yang.
harmony. That's a way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
you're
she's just
welcome.
doing it to spite me, or I'm doing
Eh,
it the right way to spite. I don't know.
well,
There's
both.
something going on there. Yeah,
I'll send her a copy of the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim
yeah.
Ferriss and see if that inspires any of her
Yeah,
any
you should.
productivity. Well, man,
Hmm.
this has been great. Tell people where they can find you, and yeah, go for it.
Sure, yeah. You can find me, you can go to therapyden.com to check out the new therapist directory I launched. It's free to sign up through 2018 and probably into 2019 for a bit. Um, you can email me at hello@therapyden.com. You can even go to my private practice website,
Hey, that's a
Jeff
new one.
Guenther, yeah, jeffguentherlpc.com. And yeah, I'm gonna stop there. There's a lot of like
That's
other
good.
things I'm gonna do, but I'm just gonna like say therapy done for now.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah. Go to Therapyden, guys. Sign up. Sign up for free while you can, and just check out the resource. And again, it's having a directory that also is doing good for the world is a pretty rare thing.
hmm
Not to mention one that's designed well, works well. Yeah, so check that out. We'll
yeah,
put links in the show notes, and yeah, we'll go from there. So this will be on YouTube and by audio wherever you usually listen to your podcasts. Jeff, thanks, man. You're a good guy and a lot of fun. Never dull moment.
yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Do me a favor, click that subscribe button below, and stay tuned for the next video coming up.